A Western like no other, in 1993, audiences stepped into the dust and gunpowder of the Old West with Tombstone. The film, starring Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, and Sam Elliott, became an instant classic. A gritty yet stylish retelling of Wyatt Earp's legendary standoff at the OK Corral. The movie had everything: unforgettable lines, haunting visuals, and performances that felt larger than life. Yet, for all its fame, there are truths about Tombstone that even its most devoted fans never realized. And according to Sam Elliott, the gravel-voiced actor who brought Virgil Earp to life, some of these hidden details changed the way you see the film forever. What did Elliott reveal? Why did he say most fans missed it? And what does it tell us about the making of one of Hollywood's greatest westerns? Let's ride into the story. The man behind the mustache, Sam Elliott, was already a familiar face in the western genre when Tombstone came calling. With his rugged looks, baritone drawl, and commanding presence, he embodied the spirit of the frontier. His casting as Virgil Earp, the eldest of the Earp brothers, wasn't just fitting, it was inevitable. But Elliott has always been more than an actor delivering lines. He's a storyteller, deeply invested in the authenticity of the roles he plays. When he speaks about Tombstone, he doesn't just reminisce, he pulls back the curtain, offering glimpses into the struggles, the triumphs, and the secrets that shaped the film. The chaos behind the scenes, most fans assume Tombstone came together smoothly, given its success. The truth is the opposite. Production was chaos. The film's original director, Kevin Jarre, who also wrote the script, was fired only weeks into shooting. His insistence on historical accuracy clashed with the studio's need for efficiency. George P. Cosmatos was brought in to finish the job, but Elliott later revealed that Kurt Russell quietly directed much of the movie himself. According to Elliott, Russell was the one holding everything together. He wasn't just Wyatt Earp on screen. He was Wyatt off-screen, taking control when the project threatened to collapse. Fans watching the finished film often miss this, that behind every frame of Russell's stoic Wyatt was an actor also carrying the weight of the entire production. Virgil's role you never noticed. When people talk about Tombstone, the conversation usually circles around Val Kilmer's magnetic portrayal of Doc Holliday. His lines, "I'm your Huckleberry," became iconic. Kurt Russell's Wyatt gets his share of attention, too. But Sam Elliott has pointed out something subtle. Virgil Earp, his character, is the true moral anchor of the film. While Wyatt wrestles with ambition and Doc teeters on the edge of destruction, Virgil is the one who commits to justice first. It's Virgil, not Wyatt, who pins on the marshal's badge and enforces the law in Tombstone. It's Virgil who initiates the fight that eventually explodes into the OK Corral. And it's Virgil who pays the highest price when he's ambushed and gravely wounded. Elliott once said, "People miss how Virgil was the one who truly stood up first. Wyatt became the legend, but Virgil was the backbone." That insight reframes the entire movie. The brother most fans see as a supporting character is actually the one who drives the story's moral heartbeat. The unspoken bond between brothers, another hidden layer Elliott revealed, lies in the dynamic between the Earp brothers. Kurt Russell, Sam Elliott, and Bill Paxton brought a real sense of family to the screen. But it wasn't just acting. Behind the scenes, the three actors forged a bond during filming that mirrored the loyalty their characters displayed. Elliott explained that the long, grueling days on set, sometimes under brutal heat, sometimes in chaotic conditions, forced them to lean on one another. This closeness seeped into their performances. Watch carefully, and you'll notice the small, unspoken gestures. A hand on a shoulder, a glance of reassurance, the way they position themselves protectively around one another. These weren't scripted moments. They were born out of the camaraderie the actors developed off-screen. Most viewers remember the gunfights, but what they don't always recognize is how these subtle details give the film its emotional weight. Without them, Tombstone would be stylish but hollow. With them, it becomes timeless. The cost of authenticity. Elliott has also revealed that the cast's commitment to authenticity went far deeper than costumes and sets. Many of the actors performed their own stunts, learned to ride horses with precision, and fired real black powder blanks that produced choking clouds of smoke. The production demanded long hours in uncomfortable gear. Elliott's own mustache, famously thick and bristling, was entirely real. He joked that it was a role in itself, but the discomfort was worth it for the authenticity it brought. In interviews, he stressed that the sweat, dust, and exhaustion you see on screen wasn't manufactured. It was real. And that realism gave the film its grit. Audiences felt the weight of history because the actors themselves carried it. Val Kilmer's hidden struggle. One of the most surprising things Elliott has discussed is Val Kilmer's performance as Doc Holliday. While fans celebrate it as one of the greatest in Western cinema, Elliott reminds us that Kilmer was quietly battling personal struggles at the time. Kilmer's intensity on screen, the sickly pallor, the haunted eyes, wasn't all makeup and acting. He was throwing himself into the role at great personal cost, pushing his body and mind to the limit. Elliott described Kilmer's dedication as a kind of madness that elevated the film but took a toll on the actor himself. Fans who watch Tombstone today often see only the brilliance. Few realize the personal sacrifice behind it. The moment that still haunts Elliott, there's one scene in particular that Sam Elliott has admitted stays with him: Virgil's ambush. After the OK choral, tensions escalate until the cowboys retaliate, brutally wounding Virgil and killing Morgan Earp. For Elliott, filming the aftermath, lying bloody with his arm shattered, was emotionally wrenching. Not because of the makeup or the pain of pretending, but because of what it symbolized. That moment was the cost of standing up for what you believe in, Elliott explained. Virgil was willing to die for law and order, and that's the part of him most people overlook. The tragedy of Virgil's injury shifts the film's tone from triumphant to mournful. It's the moment Wyatt is pushed to vengeance, but it's also the moment audiences see the real cost of justice. The lesson most fans miss. So, what is the truth that most Tombstone fans never figure out? According to Elliott, it's this: the film isn't just about Wyatt Earp or Doc Holliday, it's about sacrifice. Virgil Earp embodies that theme. He isn't the flashiest character, and he doesn't get the most quotable lines, but he represents the price of standing for principle when it's unpopular, when it's dangerous, when it costs everything. Elliott has said that's why he wanted to play Virgil, because he wasn't just Wyatt's older brother. He was the man whose courage set everything in motion. Why Elliott's words matter? Why does this revelation matter to fans? Because it changes how you watch the movie. Instead of focusing only on Wyatt's vendetta or Doc's swagger, you start to notice Virgil's steady presence. You see how his choices ripple through the story. It also deepens our appreciation for Elliott himself. His performance wasn't just background. It was central, even if it was quiet. And his reflections remind us that great films often have hidden layers waiting to be uncovered. A film that almost fell apart when audiences saw Tombstone in 1993. It looked effortless, slick costumes, unforgettable dialogue, and performances that seemed destined to become legendary. But what most fans never realized, and what Sam Elliott later admitted, was just how close the film came to collapsing before it even found its rhythm. Elliott explained that the project's earliest days were plagued with tension. Screenwriter Kevin Jarre, who had crafted a script many still call one of the best Western screenplays ever written, was hired to direct as well. But Jarre had no experience behind the camera. His insistence on historical detail, costumes so authentic they became uncomfortable, sets designed to match 19th century layouts exactly, slowed production to a crawl. The cast believed in the script, Elliott revealed, but the production was slipping through our fingers. Within weeks, Jarre was fired. The studio replaced him with George P. Cosmatos, a director better known for action films like Rambo: First Blood Part 2. At that moment, Tombstone could have fallen into mediocrity. Instead, something remarkable happened. Kurt Russell, the secret director Sam Elliott, has been candid about this secret. While Cosmatos' name appears as the official director, Kurt Russell was the one truly steering the film. Russell himself has admitted that he essentially ghost-directed Tombstone. He guided actors, adjusted dialogue, and oversaw pacing. According to Elliott, Russell's leadership saved the movie. Kurt wasn't just playing Wyatt Earp, Elliott said. He was Wyatt Earp, quietly taking charge, holding it together, making sure we finished the damn film. This revelation changes the way fans look at the movie. Wyatt Earp's calm but commanding presence on screen mirrored Russell's real-life role off-screen. He wasn't just the story's hero, he was the production's backbone. A cast at war with the studio. Another little-known detail Elliott shared was how the cast often had to fight the studio to preserve the movie's tone. Executives wanted more action, less dialogue. They pushed for quicker pacing, even if it meant cutting character-driven scenes. The actors, however, saw Jarre's original script as sacred. Val Kilmer, Kurt Russell, and Sam Elliott all fought to keep key emotional moments intact. For example, Kilmer insisted on preserving Doc Holliday's haunting line, "I'm your huckleberry," even when producers thought it would confuse audiences. In hindsight, those battles were worth it. The very moments the studio wanted to trim became the ones that turned Tombstone into a cult classic. Sam Elliott's struggle with Virgil. For Sam Elliott, portraying Virgil Earp was a personal challenge. Unlike Wyatt, who has endless dialogue, or Doc Holliday, who dominates the screen with charisma, Virgil's role was quieter, more restrained. Elliott had to bring weight to silence, to glances, to posture. He admitted that at times he feared audiences wouldn't notice Virgil at all. But Elliott believed that Virgil represented the soul of the Earp brothers. Virgil was the man who stood first, he explained. He didn't seek fame, he sought justice, and that made him harder to play. But more important, fans who rewatch the film with Elliott's words in mind begin to notice how often Virgil is the first to act. It's Virgil who takes the badge, Virgil who insists on law and order, and Virgil who pays the price. Elliott played him with quiet dignity, ensuring his importance even when the spotlight was elsewhere. Val Kilmer's dangerous dedication, one of the most remarkable behind the scenes stories Elliott revealed, involves Val Kilmer's performance. Kilmer was determined to embody Doc Holliday not just as a character, but as a man physically wasting away. To achieve this, Kilmer reportedly dehydrated himself to look thinner and gaunter, pushing his body to dangerous extremes. He spoke in a low, rasping whisper between takes, staying in character even off set. Elliott called Kilmer's dedication unsettling but brilliant. What audiences see, the sweat-drenched face, the trembling hands, wasn't just makeup. Much of it was Kilmer pushing his own body past comfort. Today, Kilmer's Doc Holliday is considered one of the greatest performances in film history. But as Elliott has stressed, fans rarely understand the personal cost behind it. The bond that held them together despite the chaos. Something extraordinary happened on set. The actors bonded like a real family. Kurt Russell, Sam Elliott, and Bill Paxton developed a chemistry that extended far beyond scripted dialogue. Elliott explained that many of the film's most intimate moments, the protective stance of the brothers, the glances they exchanged before gunfights, weren't rehearsed. They came naturally, born from the trust and camaraderie built on set. That bond deepened when tragedy struck off screen. Long shooting days, extreme heat, and the relentless pressure of saving the film forced the cast to lean on one another. Elliott later admitted that, without that connection, Tombstone might never have survived production. Scenes that fans misunderstood. Elliott has also shared insights into scenes fans often misinterpret. For instance, the OK Coral gunfight is remembered as a triumph for the Earps and Doc Holliday. But Elliott revealed that the way they filmed it, the tone was meant to feel tragic, not victorious. These men weren't heroes charging into glory, he said. They were broken men doing what they felt they had to, and it cost them dearly. The sequence where Virgil is ambushed afterward carries this weight. Fans often cheer Wyatt's vengeance, but Elliott pointed out that the story is actually about loss, about how justice and vengeance bleed together until no one walks away whole. The cult classic nobody expected when Tombstone was released. Critics were mixed. Some dismissed it as another Western in a fading genre. But word of mouth, driven by audiences who fell in love with its characters and dialogue, turned it into a phenomenon. For Elliott, this vindication was sweet. He had believed in the story from the start, even when the production was unraveling. To see it embraced by fans decades later confirmed what he always knew. Tombstone wasn't just another Western. It was a masterpiece. What fans never realized, the biggest revelation Elliott shares, though, is philosophical. He argues that most fans miss the fact that Tombstone is less about shootouts and more about brotherhood, sacrifice, and the cost of principle. The gunfights are what people remember, he said, but the story is about what it costs to stand up for what you believe in, even when it destroys you. Virgil Earp embodies that theme, but so do Wyatt and Doc in their own ways. Together, their arcs form a tapestry of loyalty, pain, and resilience that elevates the film above its genre. The Western was supposed to be dead. By the early 1990s, the Western was a fading genre. Hollywood studios had shifted their attention to action blockbusters, thrillers, and glossy dramas. Westerns, once the backbone of American cinema, had been dismissed as outdated, dusty relics of a bygone era. A few exceptions had slipped through, like Unforgiven in 1992, which won Oscars but felt more like an elegy than a revival. When Tombstone entered the picture, no one expected it to change much. It wasn't made with a massive budget. It wasn't stacked with A-list megastars, aside from Kurt Russell, and its production, riddled with conflict and chaos, looked like it might collapse before completion. Yet somehow, Tombstone defied the odds. It became a box office success, then a cult classic, then a film that critics and fans alike began calling one of the greatest Westerns ever made. And according to Sam Elliott, that lasting power isn't just about gunfights or quotable lines. It's about something deeper that most fans never figured out. A story about brotherhood. Sam Elliott has said repeatedly that Tombstone isn't really a story about lawmen and outlaws. It's a story about brothers. Wyatt, Virgil, and Morgan Earp, together with Doc Holliday, form the heart of the movie. Their loyalty to each other, their willingness to sacrifice, is what carries the film beyond genre conventions. People remember the shootouts, Elliott explained, but the real story is about these men and what they meant to one another. That's why it lasts. This truth, Elliott insists, is what audiences subconsciously connect with, even if they don't articulate it. Beneath the grit and violence, Tombstone is about family, and family never goes out of style. The immortal Doc Holliday, of course. No discussion of Tombstone's legacy can avoid Val Kilmer's Doc Holliday. His performance is often cited as one of the greatest in film history. Audiences fell in love with his wit, his charm, his recklessness, and his tragedy. But Elliott has pointed out something fans often overlook: Doc's brilliance only works because of the quiet strength around him. Val lit up every scene, Elliott admitted. But what gave him that space was the balance of Wyatt, Virgil, and Morgan. You need both, the lightning and the earth beneath it. Kilmer's Doc Holliday became immortal not just because of Kilmer's talent, but because the ensemble, anchored by Russell, Elliott, and Paxton, gave the performance context. Alone, Doc might have been a caricature. Together, he became legend. Quotable lines, timeless truths. Part of Tombstone's endurance comes from its dialogue. Lines like, "I'm your huckleberry," and "You tell him I'm coming and hell's coming with me," entered the cultural bloodstream. But Elliott has reminded fans that Jar's script contained more than just one-liners. It carried themes of sacrifice, morality, and the heavy cost of justice. Virgil's choice to wear the badge, Wyatt's choice to lead a vendetta, and Doc's choice to die beside his friend all reflect a timeless question: how much are you willing to lose for what you believe in? Those aren't just Western questions, they're human questions. And that's why audiences keep quoting Tombstone 3 decades later, because its lines aren't just clever, they're eternal. Reviving the Western spirit, when Tombstone premiered, few expected it to have cultural impact, yet it helped reignite interest in Westerns. Its mix of style, action, and character-driven storytelling proved that the genre wasn't dead, it just needed reinvention. Other films followed in its wake, from Wyatt Earp to Open Range. Even television, decades later, drew from its spirit in shows like Deadwood and Yellowstone. The DNA of Tombstone, gritty realism paired with emotional core, lives on in modern Western storytelling. Sam Elliott, whose career has been defined by the Western, credits Tombstone as one of the few films that managed to honor tradition while breaking new ground. It was the Old West, but told with a modern heartbeat, he explained. Fans who never let go. Another reason for Tombstone's legacy is its fan base. Unlike many films that fade with time, Tombstone grew stronger with age. Fans kept quoting it, hosting screenings, and sharing DVDs. It became a late-night cable staple, then a streaming favorite. Today, entire online communities are dedicated to dissecting its scenes, debating historical accuracy, and sharing behind-the-scenes trivia. And yet, as Elliott points out, many of these fans still miss the subtle truths. They see Tombstone as a story of Wyatt's vengeance or Doc's charisma. Few realize, as Elliott has stressed, that Virgil is the moral spark, that without him, none of it happens. Sam Elliott's reflection looking back, Elliott has said that Tombstone changed his life as much as it changed the genre. Though he was already a respected actor, the role of Virgil Earp cemented him as an icon. His deep voice and commanding presence became forever linked to the Western tradition. But more importantly, the film gave him pride. It wasn't easy to make, he admitted. But when people still talk about it 30 years later, you know you were part of something real. For Elliott, the legacy of Tombstone isn't just cinematic, it's personal. It validated his lifelong commitment to telling authentic stories of the West, stories where grit and honor collide. The generational effect. One of the most fascinating aspects of Tombstone's endurance is its ability to capture new generations. Parents who loved the movie in the 1990s now share it with their children, who fall in love with it just as deeply. It isn't nostalgia that keeps it alive, it's relevance. The themes of loyalty, sacrifice, and justice resonate with people regardless of age. Younger viewers, raised on superhero blockbusters, find in Tombstone a more grounded kind of heroism. Flawed men making impossible choices, not for glory, but for principle. As Elliott explained, it's not just a Western. It's a story about what it means to stand by someone, no matter the cost. What most fans still don't see, even after decades of rewatching, Elliott insists most fans overlook one final truth: Tombstone isn't about winning, it's about loss. Yes, Wyatt avenges his brothers. Yes, Doc gets his moments of swagger. But the film ends not in triumph, but in sorrow. Virgil is maimed. Morgan is dead. Doc dies young. Even Wyatt, the supposed victor, is left with scars that never truly heal. The film's brilliance, Elliott says, lies in this honesty. People think of it as a fun Western, But the real story is about how justice costs you everything. That's what people feel, even if they don't always realize it. The legacy that lives on 3 decades after its release, Tombstone stands tall not just as entertainment, but as cultural touchstone. It revived a dying genre, inspired countless storytellers, and gave audiences one of the greatest ensembles in film history. But its greatest legacy may be its truth that behind every legend lies sacrifice, that loyalty is more powerful than gunfire, and that even heroes walk away broken. Sam Elliott's reflections peel back the dust and smoke, reminding fans that Virgil Earp, the quiet, steady brother, was the story's true heart. And by understanding that, audiences discover a deeper appreciation not only for the film, but for Elliott's own performance. Why Tombstone still matters. Sam Elliott's revelations guide us past the surface, past the famous lines and blazing shootouts, into the soul of the movie. Fans may think they know Tombstone, but most still haven't seen the truth. It's not about the legend of Wyatt Earp. It's about the cost of standing up, the bond of brothers, and the quiet courage of men like Virgil who paid the highest price. That's what makes Tombstone timeless. It's not just a film we watch, it's a story we carry. And thanks to Sam Elliott's voice, both on screen and off, we'll never forget it.